The nanotubes I've added are throughout my entire laminate. They are in the black part of the composite, which is between these red plates. The nanotubes add very little weight, and we're looking to see how the minute addition of a small amount of CNTs can drastically change the performance of a composite by reinforcing against fracture and improve the toughness. In this particular case, we're trying to propagate the crack between the middle two layers. This is made up of 8 layers, and so we're trying to propagate the crack between layers 4 and 5. Because of how the nanotubes were toughening that interface and how the plies were nesting, that interface was too strong for the crack to propagate and actually jumped 1 layer over to a weaker interface. You can see here that as the crack was propagating, about 1.5 centimeters in, it started to tear through the next ply up, and so it left behind the layer and tore through half of it, leaving behind the next layer up stuck to the surface below, and so the crack had to tear through the middle of this next ply to propagate it all. We're looking to see how this can improve the reliability of composites and lighten the load and ultimately make a safer aircraft. I'm trying to make PNCs, so polymer nanocomposites, which is aligned carbon nanotubes, which start out as these black squares. I mixed up a batch of marine epoxy, so this is 2-part, pretty viscous. It's kind of like a warm honey. This epoxy is used for boat building, and I'm infiltrating them with epoxy to create small nanocomposites. Working on figuring out ways to infiltrate them without causing them to collapse. So I'm looking at how my small nanotube forests interact with polymer. As you can see, it was resting on top of this epoxy pile, but now it's sinking deeper into the pool. Just as a last step, what I'm going to do is transfer these to a different surface so that I can actually sandwich them between 2 stiff plates to force them to lie flat as I cure. Next kind of epoxy that I'll be using is one designed for aerospace. I'm going to put a few drops into my little pool that I've made in this trial. These forests are now half on inside the bubble of epoxy. These guys I'm going to put into the oven afterwards to cure. They don't cure at room temperature, so I have to put them in the oven at 160 Celsius for 2 hours for them to cure.